Well, we've got college football playoff.
Yeah.
A little bit of news today. I mean,
Playoffs?
we were talking about this yesterday, that the Big Ten and the SEC are all meeting.
Yeah.
Doing their secret meetings.
Because remember, we got 1 year left where you have to kind of keep everything relatively status quo, and then the year after that, you can kind of do what you want.
So these guys are talking about, this is just a change for next year.
Mhm.
So this is just something that they could easily tweak, but it would have to be a unanimous vote. They don't know if they have the votes, but both the SEC commissioner and the Big Ten commissioner came out and said they agree that the way teams are seeded in the 12-team playoffs should change, and they would just go 1 through 12 by ranking and not give the first-round byes to the conference champions.
Yeah, people didn't like the fact that like ASU and Boise State got byes. Meanwhile, Oregon in their first, Oregon had to play Ohio State in the first round after their bye. So that will probably change. I think most people are going to be on board.
And it makes sense.
Although,
I think it makes sense.
Because it has to be unanimous.
Yeah, they may not get it.
They may not get it.
I don't know.
Although something tells me that the Big Ten and the SEC, because remember, after this year, they kind of get to do what they want. My guess is that they go to the Mountain Wests of the world and the Big 12 and the ACC and be like, hey, just so you know, if you would like us to be pretty cool when it comes to figuring out the new format, don't be a D on this one.
Yeah.
And they're
I think that's right.
And I am willing to guess that this will end up being a thing this coming year.
Yeah, so the 4 highest ranking conference champions earned the top 4 seeds in a first round bye. Very controversial facet of the format, as Boise State was ranked 9th.
Yeah.
But got a bye.
Yeah.
And Arizona State was ranked 12th.
Yeah. And
got a bye by virtue of winning the Big 12.
And no one thought that either one of those teams was anywhere near the 4 best teams in the country.
Because 3rd-ranked Texas and 4th-ranked Penn State were runners-up in their conferences, and they could not be any higher than 5 or 6.
Yes.
Because the top 4 seeds were reserved for conference champions. So they want to change that.
Yeah.
And
they
will.
And I know it pisses people off, but at the end of the day, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to have more power than anyone else. It is the way it works. The rest of the best way to put it, the rest of the country needs them more than the SEC and the Big Ten needs the rest. I mean, it's obviously better together, but I mean, the meat of the college football world is run out of the Big Ten and the SEC, and that's just the reality of it.
The other thing it does is it opens the door for Notre Dame to get a first round bye.
Yeah.
Because right now,
They
them
really
not being
can't.
in a conference, they can't.
Yes.
And it makes sense. I mean, I even though like the Arizona States and the Boise States of the world are probably never going to get a bye now.
No. And they probably shouldn't.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like the top 4 teams have earned that.
Yes.
Like we need to still make sure that the regular season matters.
Yeah.
And, Texas being number 3, even though they didn't win their league, they earned that.
Well, again, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Boise State or Arizona State. Those are both really good programs. I mean, Boise proved it, but can we make an argument that Boise's most impressive thing they did was almost beating Oregon? And that's not okay. Like your big resume builder can't be that you played Oregon to basically a draw or that you should have won, because no one believes. And the same thing with Arizona State. Like the Big 12, God bless their heart, if you put Arizona State or Boise State in the Big 10, that's a 3 to 4 loss team.
Well,
it
I
just
also think
is.
too, it's like, and I don't remember the specifics of Arizona State's schedule, but with unbalanced schedules, Texas being 3 but not winning the SEC is like oftentimes that, I mean, not oftentimes, that could be better than Arizona State winning the Big 12 based on schedule strength.
Yeah. So
you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like
I'm looking,
so my point is, just because you didn't win the league doesn't mean you didn't play a really tough schedule and earn a bye like Texas did by being the 3 seed in a tougher league, whereas Arizona State may have ducked the best teams in the Big 12. I can't remember, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I got it up here. So they lost to Cincinnati and they lost to Texas Tech, which is that's
Who
not
are their
great.
best wins though?
BYU, and Kansas State. That was
Okay.
I mean,
So see what I mean? Like
yeah,
when you're ranked 3rd, even if you didn't win your league, that's
better
still
than-
more deserving of a bye in
Yes.
some instances than what you just read.
Yeah,
So it's pretty obvious. I mean, I think everybody agrees on this, don't they?
I mean, I know they're apples and oranges, but like the college basketball tournament has it figured out. If you win, I mean, there's way more conference tournaments, but if you win your conference tournament, you're not guaranteed a top 8 or a top 12 seed.
I mean, look,
you get a seat at the table, and then you get slotted wherever you would have been ranked.
Yeah, can we? I mean, like, Oregon is the definition of average, right? Like Oregon's basketball team is, they're fine. Well, I mean, can we?
God dang, what do you think?
They started out the year pretty good. They had some close wins, and then they're fine.
I think they're better than Kansas.
It's a valid point. They're fine, right? They're fine.
All right.
They're going to end up being an 8 or a 9 seed because they still play in one of the preeminent conferences, and there's good wins there, and they've played a tough schedule, and it's all right. You get a team that wins 23 games but plays in a soft conference or the West Coast Conference. I'm sorry. Like, you're right. Basketball has it figured out. So you see teams that are like, oh, well, they're a bubble team and they barely got in. Wait, they're an 8 seed? Yes, their schedule is problematic and they don't have as many wins, but everyone knows that team should be an 8 or a 9 seed. And it's not that hard to figure it out for football. So whether it happens this year or not, once we expand the tournament, that's going to change. So enjoy it, but Boise State will never get a bye again. It's not going to happen. And I said it till the cows came home last year. They shouldn't have gotten a bye this year. It was ridiculous. They have no business getting a bye.
The other thing is, as you said, I think you said this yesterday, but those first round teams, if they expand, should be home. Those first round games should be home games.
100%. I want there.
So instead of earning a bye,
you get a home game.
You get a home game.
And I would hope that when it expands to 14 or 16, which is I think it's going to end up being. First 2 weeks, you can't keep asking the fans to travel, and eventually you just got to cut the bowl thing and just be like, look, I understand you love the bowl games and ESPN loves them. We can still have them, but you're only getting a handful of the big bowl games, and you got to play these first 2 playoff games at home. It would make the expanded playoff so much better. And you can't ask fans to travel 4 weeks in a row to these neutral sites.
Although I would say, I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think we just said Boise State was 9th in the rankings and Arizona State was 12th.
Something like that.
They would not have home games, even though they won their leagues.
Yeah.
In this year's format, they would have had to go on the road. But, I mean, again, still, that's kind of, that's right. If you don't like that, get ranked higher. Maybe that incentivizes better out-of-conference scheduling.
It should.
And I hate to say it, but this is because people always give the SEC crap because it's like, well, they don't schedule anyone, which isn't necessarily true. Alabama schedules a tough game every year.
They do play some non-conference.
They play some non-con games. Some of them are at neutral sites, and some people are like, how neutral are those? But this is my thing. If you're Alabama or you're Ohio State, or even a school like Oregon now, you don't really have to take those chances. You don't. And I know that sucks for everyone else to hear, but it's true. If you're Boise State or you're BYU or you're Kansas or someone in the Big 12, dude, and you feel like you really want to be respected, you have to then go into the Lion's Den. If you are going to play a soft conference schedule because your conference isn't very good, you better take a Pat Hill sort of approach and schedule 1 or 2 games every year. And yes, they're probably going to have to be on the road or at a neutral site field that isn't really neutral. You're going to have to go in the Lion's Den and prove it. And that's just the way it is. And if you don't like it, then be prepared to not get respect at the end of the year. It's just the reality of it. We get into this weird thing of, well, why should we have to do it? Because you're not as good. And that's that way in every aspect of life. No matter what job you have, I guarantee there's someone at your office that gets more privileges or more perks, gets to work from home, gets a better this, gets a better that, or you're that person because you've earned that respect. We all want everything to be this even level playing field, and that's just not the way life works, especially with the unbalance of conferences and schedules.